So roughly speaking, if CNN tells them that water is wet, they would argue to the death that it's actually very dry. Greetings, this is Eugene the Philosopher, the greatest living philosopher after the unfortunate passing of Quentin Robert de Nameland, who has been the greatest living philosopher before me. In this video I wish to discuss a sort of very destructive type of skepticism which I often observe, especially in various shady groups. Well, most of my friends are pretty shady, I have to admit, because of my previous connections to, alternative science, and running actually connections to alternative science groups and stuff. So I have a lot of non-conformists in my friends list on Facebook, let's say. So I regularly see in my feed various strange things, let's put it this way. So I wish to generalize on that a little bit because I think I know what's the deal, alright? Or at least I have an opinion about this. And this video is partly a continuation of the same idea that I've given in my previous video. Well, not exactly the previous, but some time ago, which was called I Know Better, which I will link in the description as everything else that I would mention here, at least that I would deem necessary. So check it out if you wish. And the point I want to make is that mass media has turned into this proverbial boy who cried wolves, So it has given us so much lies in the last decades, and actually much more than that, probably like a century at the very least, starting with, like a totalitarian propaganda of early 20th century and stuff. And especially it has been reinforced in the recent few years, right? So now, well, why do I say boy who cried wolves? Again, it's these lies, constant lies, right? So when the boy cries wolves next time, when the wolves actually arrive, nobody believes him anymore, right? So now even if the media says that 2 + 2 = 4, some people would definitely not believe it, right? Just out of spite, just because they know that media lies, right? So especially after 2 years of blatant lies about the Chinese flu, again, among other things, right, etc., etc. So even previously sane people are falling into this trap, and they will definitely argue to their death almost that 2 + 2 is not equals 4, right? Something like that. So it has given rise to this somewhat famous meme of I support the current thing. Maybe I'll even show it to you on the screen right now, which is exactly that. It's some sort of media narrative being pushed right now, which means that it's probably a lie, right? So it's only these sheep, these NPCs, these gray people who support this current narrative. We, the smart people, are against it, right? We know it's a lie, definitely, right? So yeah, and of course. Well, yeah, you might say that the conspiracy theorists would see in this some sort of, gigantic mind control, psyops kind of thing, right? Where the whole world is being, I don't know, mind controlled. I can't really give another synonym for that. However, I think the explanation for this phenomenon of the current thing is actually somewhat more complex, but more simple in reality. Actually not, probably a bit more complex. So it's not as captivating. And I think that the good model for this is this ferromagnetism in physics. So I'll try to explain it to you in simple terms. So it is assumed that, let's say, a ferromagnetic consists of separate domains which are slightly magnetized, but they're magnetized in different directions. I mean, geometrically domains, right? But it may happen that one area becomes slightly more magnetized in a certain direction, and through that it starts to magnetize every other surrounding domain in the same direction. So in the end, the whole ferromagnetic becomes magnetized. Well, usually it happens under the influence of an external field, but it doesn't really matter for the sake of this discussion. And so, again, transferring this model to the real world, so to speak, we have this incredible connectivity today with the internet, with like high-speed multimedia, etc., etc. And, well, through this connectivity, this sort of ferromagnetism of opinions might occur as well, right? So, and I also like this analogy of Coltane. Again, I'll give you the link to his video in the description, between Twitter and like a nervous system of our current society, because Twitter only transmits really simple messages, right? It's like really a few dozen words, or how many, I don't know, actually. I mean, they enhanced it. I don't know. I don't really use Twitter that much. I actually don't use it almost at all. So it transmits these very short, very easy to understand messages, and they transmit like almost instantly throughout the whole world, right? So it acts really like a nervous system with like very simple neural signals, but which basically encompass the whole world or something like that, like literally in minutes. Yeah, and yeah, well, this is kind of the same model as in what I've described with ferromagnetism, right? Just slightly more hierarchical, because obviously Twitter is like a network, but it has definite nodes of influence, right? Like certain people might spread their message easier than others to many other people. So yeah, and it definitely may lead, such a model may lead to mass insanity, as you can see, because, well, that's just how it happens, right? Ideas spread very easily and polarize everyone almost instantaneously. But again, it's an inherent property of the modern society, of its connectivity. It's not a result of an influence of some ill will which controls everyone's minds, right? It's rather everyone's minds are falling into the influence of someone else's mind, something like that, right? I mean, there is definitely an external influence from various groups of power, who each one wants to push their own narrative, right? But as I'm saying, like, the polarization of the whole society only happens if it aligns with like these many different domains, right? Something like that. Even if some of them wouldn't like it too, actually. Right, so this is the basic model that I propose for the evil mind control of the New World Order, right? So, and in this situation of this connectivity and really fast polarization, and an assumption, which is fairly well-grounded assumption, I might say, that media is lying, at least a lot of the time, maybe not all of the time. We have this skepticism being born, right? This, I would rather call it underdeveloped skepticism, because I don't think they go the full way, and I'll explain later an alternative to that. So this underdeveloped skepticism, like, okay, media says that, maybe it's wrong, actually. That's what I mean. It quickly degenerates, actually, into literally an opposite narrative. So, okay, media is saying that this thing is white, but media is lying sometimes, then maybe this thing is black, actually. Okay, actually, you know, yeah, it makes sense. This thing is black. I'll go on and try to make an argument on Twitter and Facebook and whatever, wherever else about this. Yeah. Okay. So, in a weird way, these people are controlled by the media, even if it doesn't look so, but they are. Just think about it. They are controlled by the media, just with an opposite sign, right? Like, if media tells them that water is wet, like, they would argue to death that it's actually dry, right? So this opinion is effectively also 100% formed by the media, It's just that the people are not realizing it or something. I don't know. Just in this, I mean, wicked way, right? The media, like, tells you to go this way and you deliberately go that way, right? So the media actually controlled your behavior, ultimately, right? Because if the media told you to go this way, you'll go that way, right? That's what I mean. So yeah, maybe sometime later we'll come to a society. It's like this Nietzsche Stanislav Lem type of fantasy, where most of society would be non-conformists, and the media control would be through giving you the opposite opinion, and then you would be, you know, nudged into a needed direction through the opposition to the media's opinion, right? That would be an interesting situation. But right now it's definitely happening, just in probably more narrower circles. But I'm just writing these circles so I can observe that. Okay. So yeah. And again, that, like, the situation with Ukraine, again, a good illustration. Like, watch my video, Ukraine Special, where I give you my opinion, what's going on. Like, conspiracy theorists say, okay, media says stand with Ukraine. I mean, again, one of the current things that I support, right? Which means that, actually, we should stand with Russia, right? Because it's Russia fighting Ukraine. Therefore, Putin is good. Therefore, a new world order wants to demolish Putin, and Putin fights the new world order, and we should support him, right? In this great endeavor or something. So, Putin kills people in Ukraine. Nice, very good. Let's go. Super cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, logically, it doesn't make any sense, right? The whole narrative, like, they're trying to insert various different I don't know, different supportive ideas, I guess, to this, that the Ukraine is full of Nazis, that Ukraine is full of bioweapons, like, hello, Colin Powell, rest in peace, right? Or burn in hell, whichever you prefer. What else is there? Well, these are probably two main things, right? Nazis and biolabs. So yeah. And of course, American intelligence knew about these biolabs, but Russians didn't, yet Russians invaded, because Russians were talking about Nazis, not biolabs. And American intelligence at the same time was so intelligent, it knew about the biolabs, so it stands with Ukraine. But at the same time, the same American intelligence said that Kiev would fall in 96 hours since the start of operation. Yet it's 2 months later, Kiev still stands, and it's actually gonna stand, because, like, each hour it's getting more and more obvious that the Russians would not attack it. I mean, would not capture it, and they didn't even want it. Again, well, see my video, Ukraine Special, if you wish to know my opinion about this, etc., etc. But, so yeah, in this case, my opinion is actually that Putin is what is called controlled opposition. But again, see my previous video on Ukraine for more details. All right. Yeah, so we talked about this underdeveloped skepticism, which is like, I know better, in terms of that video of mine. But how do we surpass it? Well, like, I don't know. Yeah, literally, how do we surpass it? What are we going to do with it? Well, I would say that the way out of this trap of underdeveloped skepticism is actually by increasing skepticism, right? Not by going back to media is actually telling us the truth, but, okay, like, I'll actually make another video, like, specifically describing this situation. But for now, I'll just say that it's the analogy with Robert Fripp, the founder of, one of the founders at least, of King Crimson, who says that literally he has an aphorism that says, when stuck, increase complexity, right? So it's like a counterintuitive idea that if something didn't help you, like, you've actually turned out in a very complex situation, you need to increase the complexity even more to get out of it, right? So this is a paradoxical, like, aphoristic type of vision, right? Artistic type of vision, I would say. And I also have an aphorism on skepticism which relates to that and to this very same topic, which says, it's a translation, the original is in Russian. So, true skepticism negates pathos of any sort, including the pathos of skepticism. Which means basically that if you're saying that you're a skeptic, you're not a skeptic, right? I can't fight the memory of Michael Shermer and other skeptics like that, you know, who like demolish astrology or whatever the hell else. But yeah, they're like self-proclaimed skeptics. They're basically, there is a narrative and they're against that, but they're not reflecting upon what they're doing, how they're doing that, why they're doing that, or maybe they do, but they're actually deceiving us deliberately. I don't know. I don't care, honestly. But the point is, after like A, not A, there's a third step, which is like a more broader reflection on what are we doing, why are we doing this, and what the hell does it all mean, right? So yeah. Alright. And of course, you can't increase skepticism infinitely because, well, skepticism is, in a way, it's anti-vital, if you know what I mean. Like, it's anti-life. It's sort of like, okay, it's what I've described in Onion of Aliens, I think part 2 or 3, where I talk about intelligence. Again, I'll look it up and post the link. So I talked about how intelligence or rationality is like the ability to stop your instincts, or at least hold them for a moment to like, because like rationality okay, I don't want to repeat myself, but briefly, rationality appears when we encounter an obstacle, like our instincts like naturally pouring out, encounter an obstacle, so they cannot pour out anymore. And so we need to stop them and actually look a way around the obstacle. So this is what rationality is. It's looking for the other way. One of the manifestations of that is time, of course. Like, okay, we have some food. We can eat all of it today, but there's gonna be tomorrow. So we need to stop our instincts and think about tomorrow, and maybe we'll need this food tomorrow as well. So maybe we'll eat only like half of it today, right? You get the idea, hopefully. Okay. Yeah, so, skepticism, like this ultimate, all-devouring skepticism, is not really healthy. And sometimes you need to take action, right? Like, let's say your house is burning. Are you gonna like sit there and skepticize about it? Like, what is burning actually? It's just a interpretation of reality, you know. I mean, it's a possibility. I can imagine some Buddhist monk from some stupid legend actually did that sometime, you know. The legend was written by British spies in 19th century, obviously. But you get the idea, right? Sometimes you need to take action, but not always, again. And especially when somebody, like, recruits you to fight for the cause, you probably should be a bit more cautious about it, right? Like, maybe you shouldn't actually fight for this cause that they're so vigorously enlisting you to fight for. It's basically, you know, the salesman tactics. Like, buy this today, special offer, it's gonna expire in 12 hours, come on, 50% discount just today. So enlist today to fight for racial equality, and tomorrow enlist today to fight against the Chinese flu, and then enlist today to fight against Russia or Ukraine, whatever it is you prefer. So yeah, maybe you should think about it a little bit, right? Maybe you should save your money and your life, you know, or at least time of your life and your energy. Yeah. So on my own channel, I, of course, sometimes make moralistic judgments and value-oriented judgments where I say that, well, some things are probably worth pursuing, i.e. fighting for, but maybe in a more milder sense, but still essentially fighting for. But I can't remember a single example where what I would have argued to fight for wouldn't be associated with freedom. I think I pretty much only talked about like basically the values of freedom everywhere, like in science, in society, economics, in philosophy, even like in your personal life. So yeah, I would say that my own personal opinion is like freedom is worth fighting for, but if you think about it, freedom is like anti-cause, right? It's like, well, you're free. You're not like serving Putin or Zelensky or New World Order or whoever else, or Trump or Biden. You're like your own person, right? So it's like you're not fighting for the cause, you're fighting for yourself ultimately, right? So this is kind of what I would argue is the good thing. Right. So let's conclude this rant. So in this video, we talked about that I believe that mass media has turned into this proverbial boy who cried wolves, which leads many previously reasonable people to disbelieve everything they see there, up to adapting completely opposite view. So roughly speaking, if CNN tells them that water is wet, they would argue to the death that it's actually very dry. And I've given you some examples and some ways to counter that, hopefully. But again, we're fighting for freedom, so it's your own choice, ultimately. Thank you for watching. The eons are closing.